Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being with us in class today. Rich Scheben's with us, offgridmontana.com. Offgridmontana.com. If you'd like to find out about his book and buy it, go to offgridmontana.com. Welcome, Rich Scheben.
Well, thank you, Mr. Finelli. How are you doing this morning?
Really good. I've got a story I'd like to share with you. I know you want to play a clip, and I'd like to share a quick story with you before we start. And this affects a lot of people. And it has to do with automobiles. And so this gal, a senior, has a 2014 Cadillac. And it has one of those remote start buttons. So, as you approach, you can have the key fob in your pocket. And as you approach the vehicle, it senses you. And all you do is reach and open the door. You don't have to unlock it because you don't need a key. You just have this key fob in your pocket. And you sit down in the driver's seat and you push a button and the engine starts. And so that's kind of a feature that's been sold to Americans because we're so forgetful and it's so hard to remember to bring the keys with us and have the right key. And heck, you don't need a key. All you have is this key fob. So this the owner of this vehicle had two original keys, bought the vehicle new, or key fobs, and one of them failed. No problem. She used the other one. And then it failed. So she called the dealer, and the dealer said, bring the key fobs in, we'll take a look at it. She couldn't start her car. It was stuck, in the garage. She couldn't get out of the garage because it wouldn't start. Well, the dealer tested the key fobs, said they're working fine, no problem. They told her to bring the vehicle in. She said, I can't bring a vehicle in, it won't start. It's all-wheel drive, and it's stuck in the garage. So our son went over, and he tested the battery. He looked at the radio frequency fuse. Everything was good. And he said, tell you what, go to Walmart and buy 2 batteries, the CR 2032 batteries. They're $3.29 for a pack of 2 Energizers. And put them in and see how it goes. She bought them, put them in, and it works fine. And why am I telling the story? Number one, please don't buy a car with a remote start, because when things get bad, if you can't get these silly disc-sized batteries that are the size of a nickel, and they do wear out. If you can't get them, you're not going to be able to start your car. You can't start your car. It's a different way. You won't be able to use your car. Now, even though hidden in the key fob is a physical key, the old-fashioned key, that'll open the door, period. That's it. That'll let you sit in the driver's seat and act like you're driving your car, but you won't be able to drive it because it won't start without the key fob that's operating, and it's powered by a battery. So I just wanted to share that. And what we're finding out is dealers don't even know the answers. Dealers are giving us bad information. Bring your car in. How do you bring your car in when it won't start? How do you do that? So I just wanted to share that, Rich. Any comments?
Well, I think we definitely have an imbalance between technology and nature at every realm of society. And we're so busy trying to go forward with technology, we forget that the word smart is usually associated, in fact, always associated with the word spy. In addition to that, we're paying for things just because it's new technology that we don't need. And because we have shipped so much manufacturing away over the years, we have to buy cheap manufacturing goods from cheap labor countries. And we're teaching our children how to push buttons, manage paper, and be politically correct. So guess what happens when the button pushing no longer works? There's no manual lever.
That's exactly right. That's what's happened. That's happened here on our farm with a Chevrolet Trailblazer. The doors automatically locked themselves without us locking the doors. We couldn't get in the vehicle. And what's the dealer say? Call the cops. Really? Call the cops? Are they going to break the window with their shotgun? Why would we call the cops? So I really think that this electronic remote start keyless entry is for the other team, for the government corporations, if you will. And why do I say that? Because then they don't have to have a set of keys to unlock the Chevrolet vehicles and General Motors brands and the Dodges and the Chryslers and the Rams and the Fords. They just have the button, the universal button. I believe that they have that technology. I can't prove it. But I believe if they want to get in your car, they can press a button. If they want to shut down your car, they can press a button. But not my old 1968 car. They can't shut that one down. Not without shooting out the tires or shooting out the engine. I'm ready whenever you are. Whenever you want me to play that clip, it's 5 minutes, 32 seconds.
Yeah, and, before we go there, Vince, I just want to mention an article that has recently been posted in the last 24 hours. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are already educated on this, but I just want to share with you why I hate the words hypocrisy and double standards, because that's where it stops. Okay? They always say, the buck stops here. No, it doesn't. This is why we need practice what you preach laws. And, basically, I'll just read the headline. They all look the same. Hillary basically cracks a racist joke about how blacks look the same. And specifically, she was even mentioning Booker and Holder. And I want to really make it clear, folks, for those of you who say, first of all, the word liberal should no longer be used, because globalism and the globalists, the powers that be, have hijacked the word liberal for hidden tyranny. Remember, anything top-down, centralized with no accountability from the top is words like totalitarianism, tyranny, socialism, communism, dictatorships. This is why they're trying to get rid of free speech. You see the Democrat Party, the leftists, running on eliminating America, eliminating the rule of law, like the Constitution and Bill of Rights, basically dividing the American people by every group possible. I've talked about this till I'm blue in the face, by race, gender, sex, sexual orientation, religion, ideology, and they're even attacking generations to make the young generation hate the old generation. This is a divide and conquer strategy, all under the category of political correctness. So we have to be careful when people say, well, I'm socially liberal, but the rest of me is conservative. That doesn't fly. You're a globalist dream and an American nightmare when you say something like that. And this is why I say read up, research up, speak up, and vote up. But I'm going to have Vince play a video from Prager University. And most of these videos get banned. They get purged off the Internet because the powers that be don't want to educate the people. And basically, Prager University talks about how the first 7 black Americans ever elected to Congress were Republican. Every one of them. And it's a 5-minute clip from Prager University.
By the way, we don't have 5.
Speak before. Yeah, 5 minutes and 30
We don't have
seconds.
5 minutes in this segment. We do in the next segment.
Yeah, let's do it the next segment then, Vince.
Sure.
Because
Okay.
I want people to hear it in its entirety. It's a short clip, but it's so important that people understand that the Republicans, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, was created by the Republicans with total Democrat noncompliance. The Democrats voted against this big time. And basically what this is to give blacks freedom, women freedom, the right to vote, the right to abolish slavery, and all the above. Freedom is not free. Freedom is not easy. People have to realize that the Democrat Party started the KKK. Remember, Hillary Clinton's main mentor was Senator Byrd, who was in the hierarchy of the KKK. I think everybody in America knows that Margaret Sanger, that started Planned Parenthood, she publicly mentioned on audio, video, and in a transcript that her main objective for Planned Parenthood was to keep the black population down. Now, are there people waking up around the country, white, black, Hispanic? Heck, big time right now. But people have to realize history. And this is why the powers that be want to change history. And I talk about this often in the form of politically correct buzzwords, how a lot of our words have been changed from the old books, the old dictionaries, to the old encyclopedias, to the new Internet, so they, through incrementalism, are changing words and definitions. You know, for example, I talk about this often, the word fascism. Fascism is the corporate and government alliance to take advantage of the people. The post-2009 definition has been changed. Here's the incorrect definition now if you look it up on the Internet. It's going to be, depending on which search engine you use, it's going to be something like right-wing ideology or movement that's fundamentally opposed to democracy and liberalism. Okay, again, there's no democracy. We're supposed to be a republic anyway. Even though I am for democracy and I am for the little people speaking up, and this is why I do this show. But liberalism has been hijacked by the Democrats, by the leftists, by the globalists. They have taken over this party. The correct definition is a system that, a government marked by a totalitarian dictator for social and economic control and a suppression of the opposition by system. So all these people who are out there saying, oh, Trump is a fascist, Trump is trying to create freedom and liberty by giving small business the opportunity, by giving prosperity to the American
Hold that thought. Hold that thought. We'll be right back. Rich Evans with us. Rich, you want me to play that clip now?
Yeah, this is a great clip from Prager University. Carol Swain, I've heard her speak before. She does a great job. I urge every American to listen up, and she puts things in perspective on who the Democrats really are and who the Republicans are in a 5-minute quick talk. Please
Okay, here we go.
Hey, Vince?
Yep.
I'm not hearing anything.
Okay. Oh, wait a second. Okay. Give me just a second.
I don't know if this is a cue for me to sing 1970s disco songs, so let me know.
Huh. Okay. Well, let me try one more thing. Okay. You know what?
What?
I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. I'll try it again during the break, and we'll try again on the other side of the break. So let's continue with our discussion.
If you can't, I can certainly put the phone up to my computer and play it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we shouldn't do that, but let me try it one more time during the break and see what went wrong. But
can I go over some more stuff while
sure.
We're working on that?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I just want to make a quick announcement. There was a video that was banned very recently that even Fox banned it. Basically, it basically said that George Soros and his NGOs, non-government organizations, basically, we've talked about this in detail on how NGOs are, if they are buying sedition, treason, espionage. They should be, all the people involved should be arrested. And apparently there's proof that the UN is using U.S. taxpayer-funded money, not just for anti-American anything, but this includes illegal immigration and the so-called caravans, and they're being funded by U.S. taxpayers. And it's a banned video. It's on Infowars.com right now. I urge everybody sometime during the day to see it. And the story broke with Lou Dobbs and Judicial Watch. And this everything funded, and it's gotten to the point where, I talk about political correctness a lot, on how it's defeating us from every angle. From the bottom perspective of the bottom 93%, what it's doing is making us infight, creating chaos, creating ways that the mainstream media is manufacturing perception, pity, and ideology. It's a template for the destruction of America, swaying public opinion, holding on to the narratives, the memes, themes, talking points. I've talked about this over the years in great detail, and I think a lot of Americans are really waking up to this. But when the powers that be can print money from a central bank and put that money in their pocket, because as we all know, with quantitative easing, 95% of the money goes to the top 1 to 7%. The great majority of it goes to the top 1 to 2%. So when they use our money against ourselves, it's true evidence that we are allowing the elite to poison us against ourselves. And I urge everybody to go on Infowars and see that particular video. I just want to mention some, Vince, is it okay if I just mention a few headlines of some of these articles?
Sure.
Because they really speak for themselves.
Sure.
Chuck Schumer admits too much political correctness in America. Folks, I have to hold myself back from laughter, because the Democrat Party, the leftists, who basically are funded by the globalists, remember, it's left-right paradigm and way more aristocracy managing and controlling the serfs. So I think it's pretty obvious people are waking up to the fact that whether it be lies, propaganda, false flags, Hegelian dialectic, group identity politics, media propaganda, subliminal messaging in every movie or show, professional wordsmithing, this is all done by the Democrat Party in order to create chaos and do a divide and conquer strategy against the people. And we'll talk more in depth, and I'll have more headlines when we come back.
Yeah, Rich Sheben's with us, offgridmontana.com. Rich Sheben's with us, and this clip is from PragerU.com, 5 minutes, 32 seconds.
Racist, sexist, Republican, these words are virtually interchangeable, at least according to most professors, journalists, and celebrities. So are they right? Let's take a look at history. The Republican Party was created in 1854. The first Republican Party platform, adopted at the party's first national convention in 1856, promised to defeat, quote, those twin relics of barbarism, polygamy and slavery. Those twin relics were spreading into the Western territories. Republicans feared that as those territories became states, polygamy and slavery might become permanent parts of American life. Polygamy, the marriage of one man to multiple women, devalued women and made them a kind of property. Slavery, of course, did the same to blacks, literally. The Democrats were so opposed to the Republicans and their anti-slavery stance that in 1860, just 6 weeks after the election of the first Republican president, Abraham Lincoln, South Carolina, a state dominated by Democrats, voted to secede from the Union. The Civil War that followed was the bloodiest war in U.S. history. It led to the passage by Republicans of the 13th Amendment, which freed the slaves, the 14th Amendment, which gave them citizenship, and the 15th Amendment, which gave them the vote. In 1870, the first black senator and the first black congressmen were sworn in, both Republicans. In fact, every black representative in the House until 1935 was a Republican, and every black senator until 1979 was too. For that matter, the first female member of Congress was a Republican. The first Hispanic governor and senator were Republicans. The first Asian senator, you get the idea. Republicans also kept their pledge to defend women's rights. In 1862, the Morrill Anti-Bigamy Act was passed by the Republican-controlled Congress to put an end to polygamy. In 1920, after 52 years of Democratic Party opposition, the 19th Amendment was ratified thanks to the Republican Congress, which pressured Democratic President Woodrow Wilson to drop his opposition to women's rights. In the final tally, only 59% of House Democrats and 41% of Senate Democrats supported women's suffrage. That's compared to 91% of House Republicans and 82% of Senate Republicans. There certainly was a war on women, and it was led by the Democratic Party. But while Republicans had won a major battle for women's rights, the fight for black civil rights had a long way to go. In the 1920s, Republican President Calvin Coolidge declared that the rights of blacks are just as sacred as those of any other citizen. By contrast, when famed sprinter Jesse Owens, a staunch Republican, won 4 gold medals at the 1936 Berlin Olympics, he was snubbed by Democratic President Franklin Roosevelt. Roosevelt only invited white Olympians to the White House. 2 decades later, it was a Republican president, Dwight Eisenhower, who sent the 101st Airborne Division to escort black students into Little Rock Central High when Arkansas Governor Orville Forbes, a Democrat, refused to honor a court order to integrate the state's public schools. The Civil Rights Act of 1960, which outlawed poll taxes and other racist measures meant to keep blacks from voting, was filibustered by 18 Democrats for 125 hours. Not one Republican senator opposed the bill. Its follow-up bill, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, is one of the landmark pieces of legislation in American history. That, too, survived a filibuster by Democrats thanks to overwhelming Republican support. But you might be thinking, all that's in the past. What have Republicans done for women and blacks lately? The answer you'd hear from professors, journalists, and celebrities is not much. And this time they'd be right. They'd be right because the Republican Party treats blacks and women as it treats everyone, as equals. The Democratic Party never has, and it still doesn't. Today's Democrats treat blacks and women as victims who aren't capable of succeeding on their own. The truth is, this is just a new kind of contempt. So there is a party with a long history of racism and sexism, but it ain't the Republicans. I'm Carol Swain for Prager University.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think she said she was very eloquent. She said a lot of stuff in a very short period of time. I love hearing this woman speak. She's a patriot. She's an American. And if you folks need to look up Prager University or Carol Swain, I'm sure you can find that clip. And we have to realize that we, as the little guy who has no representation, no rights or restitution under the rule of law, we've been fed a Marxist, Alinsky, Cloward and Piven, Frankfurt School, Communist Manifesto sandwich. We're so drunk on the Kool-Aid of political correctness that people are afraid to speak, people are afraid to think, and group identity politics, like she mentioned the word victims, which many people have, including, Dr. Ben Carson and Candace Owens and so many people. are real, these people are trying to wake Americans up to the fact that we are slaves to a system that keeps us unhappy. So the right to pursue happiness is not available because we are allowing the elite to poison us against ourselves. This is why Paul Ryan, he's supposedly a conservative, he's the House Speaker, we all know that, and he says how conservatives are even now using Alinsky tribal identity politics. This is the biggest bunch of crap, and this is why he's called a rhino or a neocon. Because if you sell out the American people, you're really selling out the little guy. I just want to read some of the comments about that article that I just mentioned, if I can get them to come up here. So as we allow the elite to set the stage for group identity politics, we're going to have more government interventions, more confiscation, more redistribution of wealth, basically from the bottom 93% to the elite. And this is what's happening in America. Some of the comments, I'm just going to read a few of them, Vince, if it's okay, regarding Paul Ryan's rhino comment. And the one comment is, no, Trump adopted the same tactics and fought back. Sometimes the spineless Ryan refused to do. Next one, Jim Jordan for Speaker. Our enemies are the anti-American liberals and rhinos. They must be removed from any power forever. Next one, let's start by removing Paul Rhino Ryan. January isn't soon enough. Make America great again. Next one, Trump is asking Ryan to initiate some kind of immigration bill which will close the loopholes that already exist in encouraging more and more illegal migrants to break down our border. So far, Ryan hasn't done anything and will not. He is for amnesty and DACA. And I'm reading them in succession, pardon me. I'm not picking out and cherry-picking the comments. I'm just going down. What a piece of, I can't say it over the air, beep, rhino. Name the last time Paul the Sissy Ryan called out Democrats and leftists for utilizing Alinsky tactics. Oh, he makes sure to falsely call out conservatives for it, but never the Democrats. This is the kind of stuff that's going on when people are bought and paid for at the very top. And this is why I mentioned that particular story that just broke from Lou Dobbs, who's a hero, regarding what has happened in America with Judicial Watch. Trump, New York Times, here we go, another article. This is how they're using politics here, folks. Uses his cell phone. Okay, so basically what they're saying, they're trying to give Hillary Clinton a pass for using an unsecured server, which apparently there is a lot of evidence that China hacked it intentionally to take a lot of our secrets. Well, this is why the declassification needs to occur at every level. I mean, she bleach-bitted her computer. She hammered the hard drives with a hammer. I mean, come on. If you or I did this, we'd be in the who's gal for the rest of our lives. Bomb scare. Hot takes fly before facts in Schmidt. Trump stoked cold civil war. Basically, the Democrats are so desperate that they are setting the table for a civil war. Netflix employees donate to Democrats over GOP 141 to 1. Come on, folks. This company isn't even making money. They're going through cash left and right. They're issuing bonds. They're getting cash any other way because they are a propaganda tool for subliminal messaging so you can be basically distracted and entertained with the bread and circuses so you can come home. Next one, CNN analysis. Even a perp is mentally ill, Trump could be blamed. So if the perp is mentally ill, CNN is saying that Trump should be blamed. We have gone past stupid, folks. Kathy Griffin's midterm advice. Don't F I can't repeat. We all know what the F word means. Don't F anyone unless they vote. San Francisco spends $300,000 to register voters. Non-citizen voters. 49 show up. So they spend $300,000 of your taxpayer money for 49 people, which is illegal in the first place. You better wake up, folks, and speak up. Sorry for taking all the time, man.
Rich, you there?
I am here.
What's next?
Okay. I'm going to go through a few more articles real quick, and I know I don't give a lot of comment on each article, folks, like a lot of talk show hosts do, because a lot of these titles are very obvious. And I'm just going to continue here. AG, Attorney General and Texas Democrat Party leader, funded voter fraud ring. I don't think I really need to talk in detail about that. That's what's happening right now. And I've talked many times about how Democrats admitted openly on a microphone in public that they need illegal immigrants to vote. This is insane. 179 Trump death threats still live on Twitter. Anti-Trump newspaper fantasizes about his death. And this is the liberals who say that Republicans are creating violence. Unbelievable. You know what's the most unbelievable is that the left thinks the American people are that stupid. Facebook censorship of alternative media just at the beginning, warns top neocon insider. Yes, Facebook. Do you remember this is from the CEO Zuckerberg, who called all you useful idiots who use his product effing dummies. And if we weren't on AM or FM, I might not use the term effing. EcoWatch, natural medicine doctors are prescribing outdoors. The fact that that an article like that has to be, I think it was on Drudge Report, the fact that this has to be in print shows how dumb we've gotten and how much we've fallen. And this is why I talk about things like self-sufficiency preparedness schools, Vince, because I love to talk about ideas and solutions. And if President Trump is listening or any of his people is listening to this, he talks about how you got to fight the opioid crisis and the drugs and how it's destroying our youth and Americans in general. No one disagrees with that. But the ideas and solutions haven't been working because the powers that be want to keep the American people distracted, dumbed down, and divided. They want us to be submissive and break our will. So we have to have self-sufficiency preparedness schools. It doesn't have to be called a school. But what if we taught people how to live off-grid, alternative energy, how to buy land, how to raise animals, how to hunt and fish, how to can and preserve food, handgun defense, relearn our Constitution, financial counseling. My gosh, they don't even teach in high school how to do a checkbook and manage it. Botany, wild and edible plants, nutrition. Americans have no idea. Homeschool ideas, gardening and farming. There's so many things in nature that the fact that that this article even hit the national media is ridiculous to me, because this should be obvious. It's like saying, well, you should use toilet paper after you're done. You know, we've gotten to the point that we've taught the youngest two generations how to push buttons, manage paper, and be politically correct, and they've lost skill sets. If anybody in the Pentagon or the White House is listening, this is what we need. We need to bring back a mentor-protege relationship to the people. Okay, Vince, I'm going to get off my rant horse for a little bit because I know I'm taking all the air. So I always appreciate you, buddy, for allowing me to exercise my First Amendment rights. Thank you.
I've got a couple comments. Actually, I have four.
Okay.
One comment is you were talking about what the left wants. Well, I'm outraged that the left wants to steal my AR-15. I'm outraged. that they're saying that gun violence has got to stop. Well, I agree with that. But that doesn't mean that they have a right to steal my AR-15. And I'd like to talk a little bit more about that when we come back, because what they're doing is they're saying that the AR-15s are used in killings, of which there are plenty of killings. How many killings? Well, in 2018, there have been 297 mass shootings. And whenever there is one, guys in costumes show up with what? AR-15s. We'll be right back with Rich Scheben, U.S. State Affairs, and more discussion. And right at the top of the hour, news and commercial announcements. Scheben's with us, offgridmontana.com. And I've got a couple, about 4 comments to some of the things he said during the last hour. So there have been 297 mass shootings in the United States in 2018. That's so far. And mass shooting is when, multiple people are involved. It doesn't necessarily include death, but it happens as well during these mass shootings. And the other team wants to stop us from owning guns. They want us to give up some of our guns. Piers Morgan suggested that we should give up some of our guns. Not me. Not me. I worked hard to earn the Federal Reserve notes in order to buy my AR-15, and I plan on keeping my AR-15 for the defense of my family and me. Well, so the call is for the banning of the AR-15s. Now, why do I have an AR-15? Well, before that, I had an AK-47. But the federal government spent a lot of money buying AR-15s, American-made AR-15s. And they were proven, that technology, that platform was proven during the Vietnam conflict. Seems to be a pretty good platform. So I figured if they've done all this extensive testing, that would be the one to get, because our tax-paying Federal Reserve notes were used to help perfect that platform. So since we paid for it, that's probably what I should use, and that's what I have. Okay. We talked about the opioid crisis. I got a call this morning before the broadcast from Dr. Millie Hinkle, MD, and she's going to be on with us on Friday on GCN, on Monday on RBN. And she's going to be talking about a discovery that she's made with camel milk and what happens with drug addiction and camel milk. And quite fascinating. Next thing is we talked about children and what they're learning and so forth, and you can spot a homeschooled child from 50 feet away. They behave differently. They're typically not looking down, bumping into people in the aisles in the supermarket when as they walk down the aisles, because homeschoolers are typically not looking down at their smartphones. They're actually paying attention. And another thing that you talked about was the mentor-protege relationship. Well, that's something that we have seemed to have forgotten about. Young people think that they can go to the internet, they can look at this blue screen, they can look at their smartphone, and they can learn whatever they need to learn from the keyboard and the mouse, and it's not true. It's not true. They can learn the concepts, but when it comes into practice, during the top of the hour commercials we heard and news, we heard that the medical profession is finding out that medical interns are having a tough time. They can pass the tests quite well, but when it comes down to craftsmanship, and that's required in medicine, dexterity, if you're going to suture, mechanical skills, how the bones and the body are connected and leverage and all that kind of stuff. Yep. They're not so good at that. They don't have the mechanical skills, the dexterity, the craftsmanship that's necessary for medicine. But it's not just medicine. It's all walks of life that when we interact with machines, we need to know how they work. And the best way to do it is by doing it. And one example that I've talked about a little bit on the air is I used to have problems with the tire balancing. No matter who balanced the tires on our vehicles, no matter where they were done, big shop, little shop, they were never done right. Nobody did the tire balancing well enough that I was satisfied. And it was only until I bought a used tire balancing machine that I figured out exactly why. And the reason I'm saying this is because sometimes you actually have to do it. Actually, most of the time you actually have to do it in order to understand it. Like gardening. You can read about it, but when it comes to doing it, a lot of people fail. The first time, second time, third time. You really have to do it to understand it. So with the balancing, I would look and I'd say, okay, it says, it comes up 000. That means no weight is needed on my wheels that have just been balanced with the new tires. Perfect, according to the machine. But there'd always be vibration. And that's because the program gives the operator of the balancer different choices. And the balancer can be set so that it will round off. So if a wheel is out of balance, it can be set to display 000, so the customer is confident. Oh, great, it's a perfectly balanced wheel. But it's not, because the operator has set, or the shop foreman has set that machine so that it won't show the true results. Or the machine has not been calibrated recently or properly. Or the machine has been set to statically balance the wheel instead of dynamically balancing the wheel. So all of those things can yield a report on the screen for the customer to see that the wheels are balanced properly, but they're not. So what I'm saying is the mentor-protege relationship is absolutely critical to do a good job, to be the best we can be, period. I don't see how it can be done any other way. If I want to be a machinist, I'm not going to be a good machinist by watching YouTube videos. I'm actually going to have to get on that lathe. I'm actually going to have to use a dial caliper. I'm actually going to have to use a micrometer. I'm actually going to have to get my fingers dirty. I'm going to have to turn the wrenches, turn the ratchets. I'm going to have to do it. I'm going to have to work with lubricants. I'm going to have to use Loctite, things like that, in order to have the experience to do a good job. Let me give you a quick example. So a gal pulled into our farm. She happened to be the mail lady. A couple days ago, she pulled in with her Jeep. My son and Mrs. Finelli greeted her, and I heard the vehicle. I was in the shop, and they greeted her. And so from 20 feet away or so, I said, "You've got a valve tap." She goes, "Don't go there." I thought, why is she saying this? She said, "Your son already told me that." So he'd been there like 20 seconds before I got there. I noticed from 20 feet away, and I said, let me get something in the shop. I'll be right back. So I went into the shop. I opened one of the tool drawers, and I pulled out a stethoscope. Now, I bought this stethoscope probably 30 years ago for $3.49. It's just like a doctor would use, except it has a long rod, about, maybe 18 to 20 inches long. And I said, if it's okay with you, I will locate exactly where your problem is. So I put the stethoscope on, and I went right to where her valve tap is, and I said, this is exactly where your problem is. She said, that's exactly where the dealer just fixed it. I said, well, they didn't fix it, obviously. So what I'm saying is, the young people today would look at their machines and they would rely on a computer rather than the old-fashioned way with a stethoscope. I'm talking about a mechanical stethoscope. Nothing special. But it's a tool we use here all the time. And it works. Bottom line is, we need to get back to some of the older ways of doing things so we can understand how they work. like the mentor-protege relationship that you talked about, Rich Scheben?
Yeah. And let me make a couple comments on what you just said. First of all, this is why I talk about practice what you preach laws all the time. You know, when you were talking about guns and the so-called elite wanting to take away our guns, well, every Hollywood venue and every venue of the rich and famous has guns protecting themselves. And I mentioned this article a couple weeks ago, or I think when I monologued last week, I can't remember. Anyway, NBA star and gun control proponent LeBron James is critical of private citizens carrying guns for self-defense, but employs at least 10 armed security personnel at his home for defense of himself and his family. What we need to do is make sure that all these people who are anti-gun, anti-illegal immigrants, we need to find out, do they have security backing them up who has guns? Do they live behind a wall? Do they live behind a fence or a gated community? See, we have one set of rules and laws for the aristocracy, and then one for the bottom 93%. And I say that, you know, when I say bottom 93%, folks, as you know, I say the bottom 93% of income earners. And keep in mind, we all have short memories. I want to jar your memory that back in 1991, former U.S. Navy Intel Milton Cooper wrote a book titled Behold a Pale Horse. And the plan was to use drugs and hypnosis on medically impaired people to open fire on school kids. So the people who are emotionally sick are subjected to these behaviors, and then the little people emotionally ask for the government to disarm the people, and that's how it works. So this is all a plan of action. So most of the things out there at this point in time, especially right before the election, are lies, propaganda, false flags, and this is why we need practice what you preach laws. And as far as, I mentioned this because you were talking about psychotropic drugs briefly, Vince, and regarding things like gardening, hunting, and fishing, I'm not an expert at all. Even though I've been doing it for years, I'm always learning. We need to relearn the old 19th century skills and dovetail them with 21st century technology to keep our freedoms, liberties, and keep us thinking. Vince?
Yeah, I'll tell you a skill I'm learning when we come back. I'm going to do it today. I started on it yesterday. I'll tell you about it when we come back. New skill. You can do it too. So we have a Jeep on our farm, and it's never been registered, and I don't plan on registering. I bought this 1994 Jeep Wrangler. Why? Because it was less expensive to buy a Jeep Wrangler to travel around the farm with fence posts and tools and, chainsaws and, fence wire and all that kind of stuff. It's got a hitch on it. It was less expensive to do that than to buy a four-wheeler. So I bought this tax deduction, 1994 Jeep Wrangler. I have never registered with the other team because I don't plan on driving it, for commerce. It's just around the farm. Well, it came with a broken windshield. And I looked up, what does the windshield cost to have it replaced? Well, a 2002 Jeep Wrangler is about $208. Now, that would be out of my pocket because this does not have, road insurance on it. This is just used on the farm. And so $208 for a 2002 Jeep Wrangler. Now, if you had a 2018 Jeep, the cost would be between $331 and $501 for a windshield. I bought one from the local glass guy for $76, brand new. It's not like it's used. It's not like it's taken out of another Jeep. It's brand new. $76. So I'm going to put it in myself. And there's also a damaged quarter panel glass. It's like the rear, the side hardtop on this Jeep Wrangler, and it had a broken glass as well. Well, winter's coming, and I thought it would be a good time to, replace that. So I'm going to do that, park it in the sun, and put that glass in as well. So how much did that glass cost? Well, I tried to find one at an auto salvage yard. I can't find one. I cannot find one. Nobody's got them. I found one on the internet. I got it shipped here, glass, package, shipping, everything, for $28. $28. So for a little over $100, I'm going to replace the windshield and the quarter glass. Now, when I say quarter glass, this is huge. Okay? This is like the size of a hula hoop, except it's rectangular. So it's not like it's a mirror. It's big. $28. So what I'm saying is, can you do it yourself? I think so. Because I think I can do it too. So these are skills. Now, how did I learn how to do it? Well, I went to YouTube and I looked at a bunch of videos, and some of them are just hard to watch. I mean, can't they just get to the point? I guess they can't. Well, I cut to the chase and fast forwarded and that kind of stuff, and I was able to learn how to do it within about 10 minutes. So I started on it yesterday. I needed some materials, and I'm going to go pick them up today. I'll have it done today. And how much will I have saved? Probably $400. How long will it take me? Probably 2 hours for the whole thing, because I've never done it before. But you can, just like I am. Any comments on that? I'm talking about learning new skills. And it'd be nice if I had, a mentor, but I don't. But I'm going to do it anyway. Why? Because I have to. Why? Because for me to get this Jeep to a glass company to have it done by them completely, bring it in, drop it off, come pick it up, I have to put the Jeep on a trailer. And then I have to pull it to, let's say, Springfield, 100-mile round trip. I don't want to do it. I don't want to put it on the trailer. I have a 16-foot trailer. It's ready to go. I could hook it up to a pickup truck, pull it over there, drop it off. I don't want to do it. I don't want to waste half a day going there, coming back, strapping it down, run the risks of, all the people on the road. I don't want to do it. I'll just put the windshield in myself. And the quarter glass. Any comments, Rich Scheben?
Well, I had a little glass project I think you know about just yesterday. I had to get some high temperature glass in my wood stove, so because it cracked, it broke, and the metal doors obviously a lot more efficient, but there's certain benefits with ambiance and seeing what's through the glass in my wood stove, so I don't have to constantly open it to check to see if it needs a piece of wood. So there's always something. Vince?
Yeah, there's always something. And if you want to live like Rich Scheben does off-grid, or like we do off-grid on a farm. So, Rich, I've been thinking about this project that you had with your broken wood stove front door glass. So the glass cracked, and you needed to have it replaced.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, in a situation like that, you live off the grid. You're not near the big cities. You're out there in Montana. So who would you call? Would you call the wood stove glass replacement guys and have them come out? There is no choice, as far as I can tell.
Well,
you have to do it yourself.
I tried to uncover every option. I called up the manufacturer up in Canada where I bought the wood stove. I contacted some local glass companies here in northwest Montana. I weighed the probability of the glass getting here safely and not being broken. Mm-hmm. So I basically went to the Flathead to pick up the glass and bring it here. And I took out the old glass and put in the new glass. It wasn't as... I'm always concerned when I have to, with torque and hand strength, because I've lost so much strength in my hands from spinal stenosis. That's always my first concern is, first of all, do I have the tools? And second of all, with the tools I have, can I take things apart and put it back together? So after I figured out that I could, that was my best choice to eliminate any glass being broken through the mail, And I went there and picked it up, and it was not a big deal. And I bought 2. So if this happens again, I can put it in. So, and folks, I just want to tell you, you listen to Vince and myself, especially Vince, for a long time. He loves cars. He loves automobiles. I don't think that, I think even though Vince knows more about most things than anybody I know, I think he'll be the first one to tell you he doesn't do everything. None of us do. And I think what we have to do is realize what we enjoy in life. What are our interests? What are our hobbies? What are our passions? What are our enthusiasms? I chose making my own energy and living with frugality with it, with a 675 amp hour system, living off grid with solar, and growing my own food, hunting my own food, raising my own food, because of the volatility in the prices. And I wanted to be able to control my own destiny a little bit, and those are the areas that I chose. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to go out and drill for oil and refine your own gasoline. You got to pick things that you enjoy, that's going to save you money, that's going to build skill sets that you can teach to other people. I can't even count all the people I've had at my hobby farm because they wanted to see how we live off grid or the garden or whatever. And again, I don't consider myself an expert at anything. People look at my website, they say, wow, you've done a lot of hunting and fishing. You've been so successful. It's not because I'm good at it. It's because I enjoy it and I want to save money and don't forget, I give 50% of my meat away that I harvest. I don't hog all the proceeds. I give it away to people who appreciate it, whether they're poor or whether they don't have the ability to hunt game and they're pretty well off and they just want to live without hormones, steroids, antibiotics, pesticides, and GMO. So you got to pick and choose what you like. But when I read statistics over the air, like the average American spends 7 to 8 hours a day watching television and their smartphone, that should be unacceptable. And this is when you need to look yourselves in the mirror and say, hey, I need to reroute my plan of action. When today's youth is spending 7 hours outdoors per week, that should be unacceptable. Parents and grandparents need to start looking at this and start saying, hey, we need this self-sufficiency preparedness school this guy Rich talks about. We need to relearn those 19th century skills and dovetail them with 21st century technology and start thinking again. We need to learn nutrition. Basically, we've gone off track as a society. And the balances in life, especially the imbalance between nature and technology, has overtaken us. The imbalance between hard work and cultivating your interests and hobbies and passions has gone the wrong way. So this is why I do these radio shows, is to give ideas and solutions to the people so they can have a balance in life. And another big imbalance we have is political correctness, especially between humor and being serious. And that's why I started the show with Carol Swain from Prager University, when she talked about how women and blacks have been considered, have been playing the victim card for so long. And this is why I always say, don't say that you're socially liberal. Basically, you're setting yourself up, because there's nothing more racist, bigot, or sexist than being told how to vote or how to think. Vince?
So I was thinking about this door, this wood stove door. Could you have found a guy to come to your cabin and fix the door for you? I mean, is there a guy
sure,
out there?
It would have cost a lot more money. So,
what do you think it would cost?
I have no idea. But, when you're paying for labor, I mean, there's certain things that I just can't do anymore, okay? This is not, when I realized that I could use the tools that I have, and I had the strength in my hands to give me the proper torque to handle this issue, that's when I realized I was not going to call anybody, and I was going to take care of this problem by myself.
And I think that's great, and I think more of us should do exactly what you did. Figure it out. Go to the internet. Go look up the task that you're trying to perform, and see what other people have done, and then come to the conclusion, I can do that. Literally, I can do that. And that's what I do on a regular basis. I really do. I bought a new computer for the farm here, and I paid less for this computer than someone who bought the cheapest computer you could think of would pay for sales tax on that computer. I bought an entire computer without a hard drive though, for $5.50. Can you imagine that?
Without a hard drive?
So I bought a hard drive too for like $20-something. So I bought a computer separate from the hard drive. I put them together, loaded the operating system on it, and we're good to go. What I'm saying is, you can do it. You absolutely can do it. It just takes the persistence and the desire, and you can do it. And all the information is available on the internet, well, most of it, I guess. But I've been building computers for a long time. But, this is, I can't buy the parts for this. I can't buy a stick of memory for the cost of the entire computer. As a matter of fact, what we're finding out is that you can buy an entire car that doesn't run for $500 and fix it yourself, because the guy who owns it can't afford to have it fixed because the cost of labor is so high. So if you're willing to learn, if you're willing to do the research, and you have the persistence, you can probably do it. You can probably buy a used car for, let me give you an example. There was a guy who was selling a mid-2000 model Jaguar for $800 on the internet. And he said, I'm selling this because it needs a throttle cable, and I can't find one. And it's too expensive to fix it. So I guess the dealer would charge him too much. And he's selling an entire car. Everything works, except the gas pedal doesn't communicate with the engine. That's the entire problem. It's got tires, brakes, wheels, windshield, rear window, glass, doors, seats, radio, air conditioning, cooling system, bumpers. It's all there. And it's not like it's been rolled over. It was immaculate for $800 because he couldn't afford to have the dealership fix it, and he couldn't figure out where to get the part. I was willing to buy that. I missed it by a couple hours. I did quick research. I was able to find a cable used. And for less than $1,000, I'd have a Jaguar that would go uphill, downhill, stop, start. Windows would go up, everything. Can you imagine that? Contrast that with what a new car costs today.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So,
yeah, Vince, if you recall, I asked you about, I was at the dealership getting my oil changed, and I just was kind of fiddling around. The salesman showed me a new vehicle because it was kind of a layover. And I asked you, what were your thoughts? And you looked up what prices of certain parts would be, like a water pump, things of that nature. And the prices of parts compared to like my 2011, which is my newest vehicle, is astronomical. And I think you should share that story. I know you did at one point quickly, but I think you should mention that because it's truly an incentive to live with what you got and live below your means and try to fix what you have instead of increasing so-called technology for a price that is, ridiculous.
Okay. All right. So I just mentioned during this hour of the broadcast that a Jeep Wrangler windshield for a 2002 model, if you had it replaced, average cost right now is $208 for 2002. 16 years later, Jeep Wrangler windshield for a 2018 model is between $331 and $501. Okay? That's an enormous price increase. It's like double. And we'll talk about the water pumps when we come back. Rich Sheben's with us, offgridmontana.com. And so Rich asked me to share with you some information about new vehicles. And I just can't believe what I'm seeing. People are showing up with their vehicles here at the farm, and they're asking us to help them with repairs and so forth. So I just cannot believe what I'm seeing. So here's the story. If you had a 1976, 1977 or so model Chevrolet pickup truck, a half-ton, that would be known as the K10. So just a plain old pickup truck, Chevrolet, if you needed a fuel pump for that and you wanted to buy it, right now you could buy one on the internet for $17. 17, less than $20. There are two fuel lines that attach to it, and you would use a wrench to loosen them, and there are two bolts that hold it in. And you could lean over the side of the fender in the engine compartment and do it yourself. The cost would be $17.46. If you wanted to put a water pump on that same vehicle, if you wanted to buy it and do it yourself, you could. And the cost is $23 for a water pump, $23. That's in today's prices. When I was selling auto parts, it was more like $10 for the water pump and maybe $9 for the fuel pump. All right, so I just looked up what does it cost to replace some parts on a Dodge Ram 1500. Now, this is not new and it's not old, so it'd be like maybe 10-year-old Dodge Ram. To replace a water pump is about $498. To have someone else do it. A water pump to replace it, $498. That's the same kind of part that you could get for $23 today to put on your 1976, 1977 Chevy. Now, it'd be about the same amount for a Dodge. Okay? Back, equivalent vintage Dodge. If you wanted to replace the head gasket or have it done, it'd be about $1,499 for the Dodge Ram today. Fuel pump, $698. Heater core, $859. Radiator, $796. These prices are out of sight. Now, a new 2018 Dodge dealer-installed water pump. Let's say you had to pay for it. It's over $4,000 on their V6 engine because the water pump is inside the engine. And you can't get to it. So you have to take the engine out. This is nuts. There's a guy here yesterday. He's with the largest tire distribution company in the country. And he's looking at all these vehicles we have decorating our farm. And I said, let me show you this. So I raised the hood of a Ford. And I said, this is a V6 in it. It's around a mid-2000s model, V6 engine. And I said, so, can you see the spark plugs? He said, sure, there's 3 right here. I said, yeah, you're right. Where are the other 3? And he's looking around trying to find the other 3 spark plugs on this V6 engine. He can't find them. And I said, and I'm paraphrasing. I said, well, they're right here. They're actually under the intake manifold. So all you have to do is take all the stuff off. So you take off the mass airflow sensor, you disconnect the air cleaner, plumbing, you disconnect all these hoses, you disconnect all these connections, you unbolt the manifold. You have to have a new gasket set to replace the manifold so you can see the spark plugs. That's what's happening with new engines, new vehicles. And my advice to you is don't do it. Don't do it. You're going to regret it, because after the warranty's over and you have to start paying for these things, you'll do what everyone else is doing. You'll say, wow, it costs too much to keep it. I'm going to get a new one. Then it gets worse. No exaggeration here, Rich Scheben. I'm telling you what I've learned. It's unbelievable. So I'm not buying a new vehicle. I'm not. So I'm starting to collect a few old ones just to have spares. Any comments in the last 15 seconds?
No. Do what you can, folks. Learn skills, because we are being groomed and cultivated to forget about common sense and logic. Always appreciate you having me on, Vince.
Hey, Rich, thanks so much. I love that word. We're being cultivated. How apt is that? Class, above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is